A very good morning. Welcome to StudyIQ English, your favorite UPSC platform. A very warm welcome to today's The Hindu newspaper analysis with me. That is for 26th August 2025. Just like every day in the morning, we shall be looking at all UPSC relevant articles from The Hindu newspaper, from the New Delhi edition of this paper. Apart from that, I shall be sharing certain prelims questions with you as well for practice. You can keep finding the answers, try to solve these questions, and also keep us updated through the comment box. Apart from that, as we discuss these articles and as I remind you every day, kindly please treat all these articles as raw materials for your UPSC mains answer writing. A majority of aspirants are very well prepared with static part of the GS papers 1, 2, 3, and 4, but they really struggle when it comes to a question that's based on current affairs. Now, the beauty of mains answer writing, as we saw just 2 days before, as the UPSC mains 2025 battle was over, the beauty of answer writing is how well can you weave current affairs from newspapers into your answers. That's the agenda of the news analysis. Should you have any questions or doubts, please keep me posted through the live chat box. For today, I have selected 6 articles for you on your screen. While the first 2 articles are lengthy articles, I have picked them from the editorial page. One talks about the dangers of anti-sedition law in India. One talks about how Article 19 1A of the Indian Constitution, the freedom to speech is today being threatened. The other talks about India-Japan relationship. IR has been a very predominant segment in the news in the last few months, especially from the economic perspective because of the US imposed tariff and how now India is trying to diversify its trade relationships with other countries such as the countries of Southeast Asia, the countries of European Union, United Kingdom, and today we have in news Japan. The other 4 articles are shorter articles, they are more factual. One of them talks about the very controversial Online Gaming Act. It has become a law today formally. This is page number 8. And then we have how the Supreme Court is asking the union government to take stricter actions against those social media influencers who are crossing their limits, who are making comments that could hurt vulnerable communities in India. From that, we move on to a good news. Once again, the Indian Defence Forces have added 2 stealth frigates to their naval arsenal. We will talk about that. Last will be about India and Fiji. So, as I said, IR has been a very predominant segment. These are the most news these are the most exam related news articles that we actually need to cover from the paper. Now, there are some very repetitive articles. Suppose there was an article which spoke about once again the Bihar electoral poll. There was another article that is talking about how in India there is a lot of malnourishment, and the other newses were very, very political. How the ruling and the opposition parties are having a controversy about every second issue nowadays. So we'll avoid them and we'll stick to more exam relevant articles. The first one, as I said, is editorial page, page number 6. A very, very good morning, Riddhi. This says the dangerous wiring together of a conspiracy. Okay, let me bring down the article to you point by point. But first, let us ask a question. To which UPSC syllabus topic does this article relate to? This is GS paper 2, Polity and Governance. Why polity and governance? Because this article is talking about Indian Penal Code. The Indian Penal Code that was amended in 2023. Today we call it the new Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita. This has replaced the old obsolete colonial era laws into a more modern and a more futuristic law policy in India. We are also talking about Article 19 of the Indian Constitution, the right to freedom. More particularly, Article 19 1A, the right to free speech in India. So it becomes GS Paper 2, Polity, Constitution and Governance. What is the main issue of the article? On May 9th, 2025, a development had happened. Under this development, the Assam police had filed an FIR, a first investigation report, against two very famous journalists in India, known as Karan Thapar and Siddharth Varadarajan. These journalists are associated with a media platform called The Wire. Why were charges imposed against them? Because it was said that these people in their article in the Wire had criticized the Operation Sindoor. They had made some very cryptic and very cynical comments about India's Operation Sindoor that was conducted by India as a retaliation to Pakistani Pahalgam attack in Kashmir. It was considered by the government as an act of sedition, as an act of criticizing your own government, as an act of making a mockery of issues of internal national security. And the government also said that they were punished. Charges were imposed on them under the Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita because the articles written by them were undermining national security, plus they were supporting hostile narratives. Hence, the Assam government issued an FIR against them. They were summoned under a particular segment of the Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita, which is referred to as Section 153. Section 152, the Anti-Sedition Law under Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita 2023. The article is asking today that Section 152 of the Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita can be only imposed upon an individual if that individual has done an act that endangers India's sovereignty, India's integrity, India's unity, or India's image globally. Until such an act is done to threaten the very security and dignity of the country, this section should not be invoked. It is a very strict and a very, very punitive segment of the BNS because the punishment under section 152 of the Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita extends to punishment extending up to lifetime of imprisonment. It's a very, very strict code of law. Today, the Supreme Court of India has stepped in. Now, you may call this judicial activism, or you may call this the controversy between the legislature and the judiciary in Indian democracy. But yes, the Supreme Court has stepped in, and Supreme Court says that we want to stop the punishment against them. Supreme Court wants to give them a temporary relief. Supreme Court thinks it is unnecessary to invoke Section 152 of the Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita. Okay, so Supreme Court has temporarily restrained this strict action against them. But it has again caused a massive debate, which means, is the Indian government hell-bent upon misusing its power under Section 152 of Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita? It has led to a debate between Article 19(1)(a) of Indian Constitution, which is about freedom of speech and expression, whether it's an individual, whether it's a media person, whether it's a news analyst, or whether it's a social media influencer. Every individual in India has a right to express his or her ideas, opinions, creative expression, illustration freely. It can include criticizing the government if necessary. That's the provision under Fundamental Right Article 19(1)(a) of the Indian Constitution. Today, the Supreme Court is asking, why are we invoking Section 152 of the Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita against press people, against journalists who have done nothing but just to criticize the government if they wanted to? What is wrong with the article that they wrote? It was not against India's sovereignty, integrity, order, security. Then why did we invoke Section 152 and put a case against them? So that's the debate of the day. A very good morning, Shaggy. Very good morning, Sai Kumar. No, absolutely no one is late. We are still on the first article of the day. Okay. Now, the article is asking one more fundamental question. And this question is that today, why did we ever create the Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita 2023? Since the colonial times, the Indian Penal Code was existing and it was enough to provide punishment for various criminal acts in India. Then why did the government feel the necessity of passing the Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita as the replacement to the colonial era law? Obviously, because the IPC was considered to be extremely strict and unreasonably punitive in its nature. Now, we can talk about history here also. An episode from Indian modern history is very disturbing. When the British government in India was trying to suppress people in the Punjab area from retaliating against the government, against the freedom of press, then the government imposed Rowlatt Act on them. If you remember, the incident goes back to about 1990 to 1920 period, when the government suddenly imposed the Rowlatt Act and the government started arresting people at will. Something similar happened in the case of emergency back during the Indira Gandhi time in 1975. The government has been known, various governments have been known for exercising too much control and monitoring over the freedom of speech. That's the purpose of the Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita. That crude and extremely violent laws which criminalize any freedom should be stopped. And it should be replaced by a more modern, a more futuristic, and a more humane form of law called the Nyaya Sanhita. That's why the word Nyaya has been used. It is about justice. But the article is asking, ultimately, nothing has changed. Today's section 152 of the Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita is not at all different from section 124A of the earlier IPC. If the section 124A of the colonial era IPC was trying to control any criticism, any dissent among people against the government, today section 152 is doing just the same. We haven't changed anything. We are serving same wine in a new bottle. Same words are there. Same criminalizing clauses are there. Same kind of subversive action can be taken by the government against whatever activity governments are thinking or presuming to be separatism, to be separatist, to be extremist, to be dissent oriented. So nothing has changed. And this article therefore says that the new Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita section 152 is nothing but it is known as sedition in sheep's clothing, which means you are just changing one or two words and telling people that the whole clause has changed when in reality nothing has changed. Not even the words and clauses are changed. So, section 124A of the IPC has been reborn as section 152 of the Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita. Nothing has changed. Today, journalists, writers, poets, analysts, social media influencers, NGOs, ordinary citizens, they are fearing, they are scared of criticizing the government because whenever they open their mouth, it's told to them that you are undermining the country's sovereignty. So, what has changed in the Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita? Nothing has changed. We still are believing in the same kind of anti-sedition as the colonial government it used to believe in. That's the key argument of this article here. The article therefore also says that this has caused a massive concern for a democracy like India. Now, the word democracy is a very deep word. It's a very multi-dimensional word in the first place. Reason being that democracy is not just about giving people the right to elect their government at the Lok Sabha level or the state assembly levels or at the municipal corporation or panchayati levels. In our three-tier democracy system, it is more about giving people the right to participate. Democracy does not only mean voting and the right to vote. Democracy cannot be boiled down to Article 324 only. Democracy is as much about Article 14, the right to equality, Article 15, equal rights in terms of education and employment, Article 19, various kind of freedoms available under it, freedom of movement, freedom of occupation, freedom of speech, yes. Of course, it is Article 21 too, the right to life, the right to liberty. This is democracy. Whenever the government imposes anti-sedition law, the government is taking away press freedom. Now, press has been known as the third pillar of Indian democracy. You cannot break the third pillar by saying that any article or any comment made in the media against the government is sedition. If everything is sedition, then what is the purpose of having Article 19(1)(a) in the Constitution? There is no use at all. It is like we are killing the watchdog of the government. There is nobody to criticize the government, and then this is not democracy. It is pretty similar to autocracy. Judicial oversight. Today, as the Supreme Court has tried to stop this punishment from being imposed on these two journalists from The Wire, it also shows that in India, FIRs are being used as a pattern of harassment. And every time the Supreme Court coming in between also shows a fundamental fault line in India's democratic structure. Now, India is clearly divided between three wings. You have the executive, the president, the governor. You have the legislature, the parliament who passes the law. And then you have the judiciary, whose purpose is to provide equanimity and justice and fairness. But every time, if the parliament is passing a law which is going against democracy, and the Supreme Court has to come in and stop that, are we even trying to maintain the independence between the legislature, executive, and the judiciary? No. And then we come to a situation where people say we are living in times of judicial activism. The Supreme Courts are over interfering in legislative procedures, but then what should they do? In case Parliament chooses to pass laws which are strict, which are undemocratic, in that case, how can we stop the Supreme Court from stepping in? Then it is also about non-compliance. Now, today there is one more interesting question. What if the legislature refuses to listen to the Supreme Court's order? What if it files a re-appeal of the case? In that case, are we not eroding the trust in our judicial system? Supreme Court should be the last resort. Supreme Court is at the highest pedestal in India. Any decision coming from the central court should be abided by. But every time a conflict erupts between legislature and the courts, we are undermining the sacrosanct position of our judiciary as well. That's another thing. Now, talking about the issue on a very, very constitutional perspective. Alongside Article 19(1)(a) that gives you the right to free speech and expression, there is Article 19(2) as well, 2B as well, which says that any activity that amounts to endangering India's sovereignty, security, and dignity will be called sedition. So we are fighting between two clauses of Article 19 itself. That which article should be allowed under Article 19(1)(a) and which can be stopped under Article 19 Part B. What is the reasonable restriction clause here? Who decides what is reasonable restriction? Yes, there is freedom of speech within reasonable restrictions, but who will decide reasonable restriction? Supreme Court? Legislature? People? Who? That's the question we are left with for this article. Now, quickly to the question for the day. With reference to the Press Freedom and Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita 2023, please consider the following statements. 1. Freedom of press is clearly, explicitly mentioned in Article 19(1)(a) of Indian Constitution. 2. Article 152 of the Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita criminalizes activities that endanger sovereignty, unity, integrity of India, with punishment extended up to lifetime imprisonment. And 3. The offense of sedition, anti-national activities, subversive activities, terrorism. All this is sedition. The offense of sedition has been completely removed from the Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita and has not been replaced by any provision of similar nature. Very easy question. If you have understood the article clearly, please try to solve it. I have placed the answers on the last slide of this presentation. A very, very good morning, Hitoka. A very good morning, Sudhesh. A very good morning, Ponguru. Absolutely, that was a very valid point, Shaggy. Yes, the true horror was crushed during the times of emergency. We call it the Black Period in India. Yes, that's again a good question, Hitoka. It was being thought about to change the name to Bharat. In many ways, we already have, like the Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita. In many ways, Today, whatever policies the government is creating, they are using the name Bharat more, much more. But still, since many states still follow English as their official language, there is no compulsory complete change of name. Okay? Now, with that, let's proceed with the second article for the day. This article is coming from GS Paper 2 for you, because your GS Paper 2, UPSC Mains, is International Relations. In the next year prelims 2026, be prepared to face many questions from IR. If I was to predict you sitting on 26th August 2025, I would say do expect at least 12 questions from IR. 100%. Because this year completely current affairs are rooted into IR. We have seen so many wars happening, and now we are seeing a complete twist in India US relationship, a new cementing in India China relationship, India Philippine relationship, India Japan relationship. So, IR is big time in the news. Please remember all the important places in the news for the next year prelims. Do remember that even in the mains of next year, you will have definitely at least 3 to 4 questions on India US relationship and India's renewed relationship with South Asian countries. Coming back to the article, this is a map showing the Indo Pacific area for you. Two areas are very important for IR. One is the South China Sea. You have to understand the whole controversy, how China dominates various other countries in the South China Sea. Second is the IOR region, the Indian Ocean Rim area, and the Indo Pacific region. Very, very crucial. This article is talking about the same. This is page number 6, International Relations, India China, India Japan relationship. What's the key issue of the article? Now, Prime Minister Modi has planned to visit China and Japan both. The visit will happen somewhere around 29th of August 2025. Quite interesting, because both countries, China and Japan, are not the best of friends. But for India, this is the diplomatic need for the hour. So the Prime Minister will be visiting both the countries, and it shows India's shifting geopolitical preferences. Now, India China, since the last 1 week, are trying to solve their mutual problems of the line of control, controversy between them, mutual problems that began in 2020 Galwan Valley attack of China. Today, both the countries are seriously sitting and trying to sort out these differences. The countries are also trying to renew their trade relationship with each other. We all know the reason. It's because of the tariff imposed by the US, first 25%, then another 25% as a punishment, because India imports oil and gas from Russia. So total 50% tariff has been imposed on India. Apart from Brazil, we are the only country that are facing such a high punishment of tariff. While US has chosen to go soft on China, it has given China some time. It has reduced China's burden of tariff from 143% to merely around 30%. But for India, there has been no softening of heart. India continues to face the same tariff terror right now also. Therefore, we need to diversify our trade relationships, and now India is trying to renew its relationship with China. Fortunately for us, China has supported India here. China has called out America for this absolutely illogical, unsystematic, anti WTO tariff structure. It was not needed at all. Even China agrees. In fact, India and China are also trying to start once again the trade from the Lipu Lake Pass that runs from Uttarakhand. They are trying to further enhance the Kailash Mansarovar Yatra. Apart from that, also much better bilateral trade, more visa applications for Chinese and Indian nationals to travel into each other's country. That's looking very good right now. At the same time, India also understands that Japan has been a key ally of India for a very long time. Both the countries have historical cultural ties. Apart from that, both the countries also are key participants in summits like Quad. They participate and they agree to each other's agendas against Chinese monopoly in the South China Sea. When Japan has faced Chinese extremism over Senkaku Islands, India was very vocal about supporting Japan. In that light, today, India and Japan are trying once again to deepen their partnership across investment, trade, security, And Japan has agreed to invest much more money in Indian infrastructure. Both want to have a good relationship in the Indo-Pacific region. The primary objective is to counter the China's domination. This is the key issue. Now let's see what is the promise that both the countries have made today. Very good morning, Rishi. And yes, absolutely. That's a valid point made by you, Shaggy. The constitution itself says India, that is Bharat, shall be a union of states. Valid point. So, what are India and Japan looking at? They are trying to invest in much higher level of bilateral trade that crosses over $68 billion in times to come. Both the countries want to invest together in solar energy. Japan has agreed to share with India more supply, subsidized supply of raw rare earth materials, because India also is now trying to go Atmanirbhar, self-sufficient in manufacturing semiconductors and EV batteries. So Japan has promised to send us more subsidized rare earth material. Similarly, across manufacturing and technology, both the countries have made newer ties. Similarly, the Shinkansen. This is the name of a series of investments that Japan will make in India. Please remember the name Shinkansen. Okay, Shinkansen. This is a promise of many investments that Japan is going to make in India across Mumbai, across Ahmedabad. For example, the bullet train through advanced Japan technology. Similarly, both will launch economic security initiative, as I said, across semiconductor industry, mining of rare earth materials. Now, as I have said before multiple times, today the world is in a dire need. There is a massive hunger for rare earth materials. Materials like cobalt, lithium, gallium, they are in huge demand. Because all the countries want to reduce their carbon footprint, most of them want to manufacture solar cells on their own, the photovoltaic cells. Most countries want to become independent when it comes to semiconductor manufacturing, AI chip manufacturing. At the same time, electronic vehicle is a rising segment. But today, unfortunately, when it comes to semiconductor, AI chips and materials like rare earth materials, it is countries like United States of America and China that dominate the global supply chain market. US has already given a shock to most countries across the world, and China keeps giving supply shocks also. So all the countries realize that too much dependence on these is invalid. We cannot really depend on countries as unpredictable as US and China. Now, apart from US and China, the only other countries which have a rich source of rare earth materials are Chile, Australia, and Japan. So today it's a welcome initiative that Japan is promising us a supply of raw material for making our AI chips, semiconductors, solar cells, and EV batteries. Then, across pharmaceuticals also, more easy subsidized raw materials for generic medicines. India also has promised to enhance its supply of generic material through which medicines are created to Japan. Now, India is known as the pharmacy of the whole world, whether it's vaccination using the latest mRNA technology that goes into that goes into making vaccines for various kinds of communicable diseases and non-communicable diseases. So India also has promised China a steady supply of these generic pharmaceutical materials. Then we are looking at digital cooperation also across AI, startups, cyber security technology. Just last year, we also saw how shockingly Israel was able to actually hack all the smartphone technology in Iran. Overnight, hacking happens. In fact, software hacking has been known to be a very popular war tool in the last few years. Okay, so therefore, Japan will help India in improving its cyber security in a big way. With that, what is the significance of this new relationship? Yes, it provides us a better market for our products. But similarly, it also provides us a long-term strategic importance in the Indo-Pacific region. Apart from that, yes, countries like South Korea, India, Japan, Australia all are tired and frustrated with too much dependence on China for every small thing. So now, with this improving partnership, we may become more independent and we may reduce our dependence on China for whether generic medications or whether for rare earth materials or any other electronic supplies. So that's the beauty of this agreement here. Now, across security and defense, which is the key area, I just told you yesterday in the news that it is the NATO countries actually, North Atlantic Treaty Organization, completely in news since last year, ever since Russia Ukraine war started. Russia never wanted Ukraine to become a part of the NATO because NATO, which involves US, countries from European Union, are ideologically against Russia and of course China. So, talking about NATO, all the NATO countries have promised to spend at least 5% of their GDP only in defense. Countries like Taiwan are also following the same model now. US has told Taiwan, US has told South Korea, increase your investment in defense. Obviously, the purpose is selfish also because majority of the weapons in the world are supplied from US, so it is an income from the US. The more war the world has, the richer America becomes. At the same time, also because America is telling its allies to expand defense expenditure because the world is living in a very difficult geopolitical situation right now. Too many wars are actually happening parallelly. So that's why even under India Japan agreement that's happening right now, as Prime Minister will be going on 29th August 2025, both the countries are saying we will further improve our mutual security through military exercises, more bilateral military training sessions, workshops, exchange of warfare techniques in the Indo Pacific area. So, we will once again revise the 2008 Joint Declaration on Security Cooperation. Both the countries will try that the Indo-Pacific region becomes rule-based, open and democratic. That is the key purpose of the Quad Forum. What is Quad? Quadrilateral dialogue. Which are the main countries of Quad? Australia, US, Japan, India. What's the main agenda of Quad? Fighting against China's domination in the South China Sea, in the Indo-Pacific. So, both these countries, India, Japan, as a key allies of Quad Summit, are further trying to promise each other that we will make the Indo-Pacific more rules and regulation based, equally accessible to all the countries, not just China's domination. They will share intelligence sharing with each other so that they can have information regarding all the activities in the Indo-Pacific region mutually shared between them. It's a defense step. Both the countries will also try to be very cautious of China. Okay, and although they are trying to resume travel back to China, but the countries are saying that we have to be very cautious because in the past it has always caused some problem. So, strategic message is that today India, as it faces disappointment in the America, as China can be very unpredictable, India is definitely trying to have much better, much deeper relationship with nations like South Korea, like Japan, like Philippines. Why? Because we need more partnerships, different partnerships if the old ones are not behaving properly. That's the message of the article here. Now, I have brought for you a UPSC 2016 prelims question. It was quite related to this topic. With reference to the Trans-Pacific Partnership, consider the following statements. 1. It is an agreement along the Pacific Rim countries except China and Russia. 2. It is a strategic alliance for the purpose of maritime security only. Easy question. Which of the following statements is or are correct? Please pick out the right answer. You can choose to answer here. If you want to verify your answer, as I said in the last slide of the presentation, you will get the answer. Very, very good morning, Inamul. I'm so happy to hear that. Most welcome to our lecture. Absolutely, that's wonderfully mentioned. The Outlook Business Magazine. Yes, Shaggy. The rare earth materials. These are the need of the hour. Now back to page number 1 article. This is the front page article I have for you. Supreme Court is asking the government to have more control, more monitoring and much better supervision of social media influencers. Whatever happened in the past, Ranbir Ilahabadia, Sanmay Raina, many other people who were making podcasts, who were becoming hugely popular on social media, was suddenly caught by the police for making some such statements, some such speeches that were against the morality of Indian society. Hence, since then, it has become a precedent that the government says we will not allow hurtful, humiliating, insensitive statements towards any community in India under the garb of right to free speech and expression under Article 19(1)(a). So, yes, this article comes for GS paper 2. We are talking about Indian Constitution once again, polity and governance, more particularly Article 19(1)(a), the right to free speech and expression. Yes, of course, another topic is social media regulation. Okay, so whether it's right to data privacy, whether it's right to information, all these are creating too many controversies in the last few months. Like today, there was another article in the newspaper. It was very kind of, surprising that somebody has demanded allowing the use of Right to Information Act 2005 to check into the university records because he wanted to see the educational records of our Prime Minister itself. Now, just imagine the controversies regarding right to information, although the permission has been denied. At the same time, it also raises important questions. Who decides exactly what is allowed under right to information, right to data privacy? For that matter, the Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita. Today, once again, social media regulation. These are very debatable topics of the day. So this article also quite debatable here says that Supreme Court has told the government control the voices of social media influencer. They are crossing their limits in every way. Today, Supreme Court has told the union government to make clear-cut guidelines on paper, published guidelines, published regulations to do what? To control the conduct of social media influencers, particularly content creators and influencers as well, podcast makers. Recently, the Supreme Court heard a case that involved the comedian Samay Raina, plus many others who were accused of making insensitive jokes about people with physical disabilities. Now, we know that in India, we have been providing people with benchmark disabilities about 4% reservation across central and state government services and educational institutions. It is a recognized category for reservation. Near about 21 disabilities are acknowledged here. Okay, and across these, any individual who is experiencing more than 30 or 40% of that particular disability will get a reservation. But today it looks like our social media influencers are becoming too insensitive about even people with disabilities. Because a recent joke that was created by Sanmay Raina and other, close allies of this comedian was such that they were very insensitive regarding the respect and sentiments of people with disabilities. So Supreme Court is saying that social media influencers will commercialize anything today. They are ready to commercialize issues related to transgender, issues related to women, issues related to families, issues related to disabilities, issues related to neurodiversity. Why? Because they want money, they want views, they want to make a clickbaitable content. In the process of commercialization, they do not realize that for making profits, they are compromising Article 19 1A. And they are also compromising and misusing the freedom that they have in India under Article 14, under Article 15, 16, and 21. So, is that valid? Should we allow our content makers to make fun and hurt the sentiments of vulnerable groups in India, including women, scheduled castes, scheduled tribes, elderly people, children, people with disabilities? Who decides the balance between Article 19(1)(a) right to free speech and other articles of the Constitution which gives the right to dignity and liberty like Article 21? That's the key argument in this article. Okay, yeah. I mean, we can say that about US and India in a very funny way, yes. Okay, so with that, if this is the key tone of the article, the debate that the article has cracked upon, as I said once again, is Article 19(1)(a) is there, right to free speech and expression. Should we allow this? Or should we follow the guidelines under Article 19(2)? That despite Article 19(1)(a) giving people right to free speech and expression, this right cannot be misused against India's dignity, sovereignty, security, and social morality, public order. That's Article 19(2), which says reasonable restrictions can be created on decency, morality, and protecting the rights and sentiments of our citizens. So, humor is all right, but intensive, crude humor that leads to making fun of people who are experiencing some physical or mental disability goes against the principles of our constitution. Principles of Articles 14, that's right to equality to each individual. Article 15, that once again gives equal opportunity to each individual. Article 21, the right to life and liberty to each individual. Just because you want more money from your content, it doesn't mean you can humiliate people at will, especially those who are vulnerable. You cannot commercialize your free speech. The Supreme Court has clearly created three distinctions between free speech, commercial speech, prohibited speech. While in India, free speech is allowed under Article 19(1)(a), as I told you. Commercial speech is also allowed, but there are some limits to it. You can make money by making passionate, emotional speeches, clickbait speeches, but there is a limit to that. If it is categorized under the prohibited speech, which includes hate speech against religions and castes, which includes obscenity against women, against children, against lower caste members, against people with disabilities, or if it includes inciting, provoking any kind of violence or insult to other citizens, then it is considered as prohibited. And here the Supreme Court is saying in the comedy comments made by Samay Raina, we have not seen any free speech element. We have seen two mixed things, over commercialized speech with prohibited speech. So, such regulations should be created that combat, that stop such humors from being publicized, which are insulting a particular segment of society. That's the article for you. Okay. Now, what are the concerns of this decision by Supreme Court? Yes, there are certain concerns that what if the government makes this Article 19(2) as a tool to stop the free speech in India? Quite similar to the debate of the same Section 152 of the Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita. Another problem is that if India becomes so cautious and it starts over regulating our social media influencers, then maybe global platforms like YouTube and Instagram may not be happy with their Indian operations because they would not want to have content that is having too much restriction. Maybe it will not allow people to express their original artistic freedom. That's a problem. We are trying to kill satire, comedy, and dissent among people. It is difficult because today millions of young adults are getting their income from YouTube influencing, Instagram influencing. If we create too many regulations across these platforms, a lot of livelihoods and careers may be damaged. But at the same time, there are some benefits also of this comment by the Supreme Court. At least tomorrow, we will have some stricter regulation by the union government so that people understand the difference between free speech and prohibited speech. Commercial speech is okay, but to go blind for commercialization and to start insulting people absolutely comes under Article 19(2). That should be prohibited speech. So today we need a proper framework, much more than the Information Technology Rules 2021. Similarly, we need more respect towards people with disability, just like it was told in the Disability Rights Act 2016, that disability is not about a physical mental problem, it is about the attitude of society, it is about social exclusion. The problem with people facing disabilities is not that much physical, it is more social. people have a stigma against disability. That's not correct. Then we should understand that we have to sensitize time to time our young generation. It could be through school, college education. It could be through more government campaignings online. That while it is fine to be funny, it is absolutely okay to use your satire, to use your artistic way of talking. Being very good with words is also a skill. But at the same time, when those words are used to criticize somebody to the extent of humiliation, that's pretty undemocratic, and that's the debate for today. We have to consult the national broadcasters and digital associations to have stricter guidelines which decide what is valid under free speech, what is invalid under commercial and prohibited speech. Okay, now to the next article for the day, quite an important one, coming from page 8, the text article, the text page. It says, what does the new Online Gaming Act outline? 2 3 days before, we have already discussed a little bit on the Online New Gaming Act. I told you that government is saying that any kind of online game that involves poker, betting, putting money should be banned, because these are inculcating among young generation problems of suicide, too much addiction, and the problems of tax evasion. So the government feels it is not the right way of earning money. It is quite against the benefit of our youth. So therefore, online gaming industry has to be regulated. So what is the key issue for the day? Which paper does it correspond to? Yes, it corresponds to GS paper 1 because it is a social issue. Yes, it corresponds to GS paper 3 because it is also about economy, tax evasion. What's the key issue raised by the article? The key issue is that India's online gaming industry has seen exponential growth in the past few years, especially in the real money games. We call them as RMGs. This industry has seen huge growth. Games like poker, rummy, fantasy cricket, and all the other such games are now so attractive that they are not only attracting too much investment, but they are also giving jobs to many, many people, a source of income to many, many people. But the problem is that, is this the right way of earning money? The government is saying it has also led to concerns over too much internet addiction, gambling addiction among the youth, among the young children. Suicides. Recently, somebody had committed suicide in Karnataka because the person lost money in online gambling. Is that a valid trend of our youth? Not at all. It leads to tax evasion, it leads to financial frauds of various kinds, and indeed, then it comes under money laundering. Money laundering under the Money Laundering Act, the Anti Money Laundering Act, is a serious criminalized offense. But online gaming or RMGs, the real money games, are creating such habits among our youth today. So, therefore, the parliament has now made this as a law. The online gaming bill is today a law. This act is trying to create a difference between esports. It is very different to play sports online. It is very different to have social games online. It is very different to have skill based games online. But when it comes to gambling and poker and fantasy cricket, it is not about skill. It is not about skill. Article 19, 1G allows online games which are based on skill and merit. Yes, you can earn from that. But what is the skill in rummy, poker, and gambling? Nothing. It is purely addiction and waste of money. In fact, it is wasting the precious time of the youth, which should be utilized for getting other important social and economic skills. So, therefore, the Act is saying that esports are recognized under the National Sports Government Act 2025. They are based on skill and people are winning prizes in this. This is allowed. Social gaming. Social gaming means gaming just for fun. There is no money involved here. Online Ludo, online racing competitions, online quizzes and debates are fine because it has no money. So this is completely fine. The government is ready to fund those apps which are making these games to make people happy just for recreation. That is also okay. The problem is real money game. Real money game involves money, some kind of heavy fees. In return, people expect to get rewards. There is no skill here. There is no socialization here. Just betting and gambling is involved. You put money on a cricket team. If the cricket team wins, you get the money. You get more money. If it loses, you lose all your money. Well, this is gambling, nothing short of that. And the government today does not want to allow gambling to spoil the youth of the country. So government says whether it is fantasy sport, poker or rummy, all these come under gambling category as per Supreme Court, which the government is not going to allow. These are not related to the games of skill under Article Freedom, Article 19(1)(g). So therefore, we will put some kind of a stopping on that. There is a total ban on real money games from now onwards. Platforms like Dream 11, Rummy Circle, My 11 Circle, all these shall be prohibited. It leads to money laundering and tax evasion. Penalties shall be for people and for those online platforms who are offering real money games to people. You can be punished for 3 years or 1 crore rupees fine or both. Similarly, if you are advertising, marketing, encouraging people to play real money games, it can be 2 years imprisonment with 50 lakh rupees fine and both sometimes. Similarly, all these offences are cognizable and non-bailable under Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita 2023. Okay, so the World Health Organization also agrees to this. In fact, India has followed the World Health Organization's directives, which says too much online gaming creates addiction and suicidal problems in children. It leads to psychological stress. It leads to tax evasion, money laundering. It leads to too much disruption in the natural social life of children. It disables them from learning educational and economic skills. Plus, look at the financial hardships. As I said, in Karnataka, 32 people committed suicide because of online gaming addiction in just last, say, about 1 or 2 years. So, if this is the ugly side of online gaming, the government has taken a very decent step. Now we talk about the article on page number 12 quickly. This article is once again a wonderful news for India's defense system. It goes to GS paper 3, Science and Technology, particularly defense technology. The Indian Navy is now ready to commission two state-of-the-art projects, stealth frigates. These are known as the Himgiri and the Udaigiri. Both will be commissioned at the Vishakhapatnam Naval Base today itself. That's a great news for us. Why is it a great news? Is because India is already working towards Atmanirbharta, self-dependency when it comes to defense. We do not want to depend on any country, whether it's Russia or whether it's US, for getting missiles, drone technology, any kind of naval technology, and hence today it is no other but Indian organization which has created these two wonderful additions to the Indian Navy. Both these are stealth range frigates. As I said, one is the Indian Navy Udaigiri, the other is the Indian naval ship Himgiri. Both are categorized under a project called Project 17A. This will add to India's capacity in warship designing and shipbuilding. It will give us self-sufficiency, self-reliance in defense manufacturing sector. The greatest part here is that this is a great step towards indigenization, local, voice for local, everything being made within India to strengthen India's naval security in the Indian Ocean region, the IOR region, very important for UPSC exam. As China's presence is constantly expanding in the IOR, India and other ocean rim countries are very, very cautious. So this initiative of adding two stealth frigates, both INS Udaigiri and Himgiri, will definitely create more security for us in the IOR region. This is the first time two frontline warships are commissioned at the same time simultaneously from two different shipyards within India, which means even inside our navy and naval domain, we are experiencing too much collaboration, coordination, and technology sharing from one port to another port, one naval base to another naval base. And I think that's a great step taken by the country. So, if we talk about INS Udaigiri and INS Himgiri, these are a follow on to the Shivalik class frigates. That was Project 17. This is the newer version, Project 17A. If we talk about self-defense capacity, you can mention both the projects. Project 17 was about Shivalik class frigates. Project 71A is about Udaygiri and Himgiri. Please do write this in your answer in case you get a question on how is India becoming Atmanirbhar in naval defense technology with regards to the Indian Ocean region dominated by China. Both of these have a very sophisticated combined diesel or gas system, the CODOG. Now, these will also use very advanced level of Indian-made weapons and sensors. The great thing is 75% of the components of both the INS ships is India-made. It is completely local. It will enhance our Navy's access better to the IOR region. Recently in the Hindu, I have spoken about China's string of pearls strategy, that China is having access to one very critical naval base in various countries, starting from the Xinjiang province of China and leading up all the way to West Asia. It's called the string of pearls. Everywhere China is expanding through this ideology under the Belt and the Road Initiative also. So India's presence in the IOR region with this new Project 17A is a welcome initiative. It also shows how much India is now focusing on its defense, one thing. Atmanirbharta, self-dependency in manufacturing of defense, another thing. Third thing is India is now also working towards the blue economic development. Blue economy is about maritime resources, ocean-driven economy. And then we are also focusing better on forums like Quad. We are supporting Act East policy. Okay. What is the benefit for small industries? If we completely become self-dependent in defense manufacturing, it will boost the medium to small scale industries because they are a key participants in indigenous manufacturing. It will help in technology transfer. It will generate more employment in the defense sector. When more manufacturing is happening, naturally more jobs will also be created. Okay. Now to the question. The question is with reference to Project 17A, the latest one. Frigates recently inducted into the Indian Navy. Consider the following statements. 1. Project 17A frigates are a follow-up. They are a second version of variants that have been designed within India in-house by Navy's Warship Design Bureau. 2. These frigates are equipped with combustion diesel or gas CODOG propulsion, and this is 75% manufactured in India. 3. Both INS Udaygiri and INS Himgiri were built at the Mazagaon Dock Shipbuilders Limited at Mumbai. So which of these statements is or are valid? You can try to find the answer and also post it down. An absolutely correct answer that is. Wonderful. Very well answered. Well done. Now the last article for the day, once again coming to you from GS paper 2, International Relations. Relations between India and Fiji. You may have heard sometime, at some point of time, that apart from India, if there is any other country where people love talking in Hindi, where people love Indian culture, where there are too many people from Indian origin, that's Fiji. A small island nation, but shares a wonderful relationship with India. In fact, many times it is Fiji, where the Hindi and Sanskrit conferences were also held in the past. So therefore, today, India and Fiji are trying to create a stronger relationship where in the same Indian Ocean region. Any particular cause for that? Yes. 1. China's domination. 2. India trying to strengthen its relationships with other countries apart from the Western countries. So India is now looking east. The look east policy has revived again. What is happening between the relationship? The Prime Minister, Shri Modi, has had talks with the Fiji's Prime Minister, Sitiveni Rabuka. This happened in New Delhi, in India, and the leaders are saying, let's have a more open, a more democratic, a safer, policy-regulated Indian Ocean region. They have signed multiple pacts with each other. The purpose is to counteract with China's expanding influence in the Indo-Pacific area. Other countries are naturally scared. So now Fiji and Pacific Islands are also a very crucial part of the Forum for India-Pacific Islands Cooperation, the FIPIC. FIPIC was launched in India back in 2014. It's an India-led initiative in the Indo-Pacific, and along with Fiji, many small other Pacific island nations are a part of this forum. Second thing is, the Prime Minister of Fiji also very vocally criticized China for creating a naval base in the Indo-Pacific area, which is very close to Fiji. So, therefore, they are obviously worried that China may intrude in their territorial waters, and they do not want that to happen. So, therefore, Fiji wants to have a better relationship with India and other countries of the quadrilateral dialogue. Absolutely, I will do that. I will make it the rare earth metal. Very good morning, Bulbul. Okay. So, this is the relationship of India and Fiji. Fiji wants to come closer to India and the Quad countries because Fiji also is scared of China. I told you yesterday, enemy's enemy become friends. Talking about the relationship between India and Fiji, if you talk about the defense sector, then India has promised to support Fiji in United Nations peacekeeping operations. India has also promised to send to Fiji military medicines, military equipment. Besides, India also agreed to share with Fiji very technical information regarding maritime data, the data of the IOR region, the data of the Indo-Pacific region. It has also planned to export to Fiji military grade commercial vessels. Why? Because Fiji wants to keep itself secure against China. India is ready to help. Just like right now, South Korea is scared of North Korea. North Korea is further expanding its missile and nuclear power. South Korea was scared naturally. So what happened? America came to help. And what did America do? Both the countries, South Korea and America, are having an exercise called, what is that exercise called? I have made a video on that. Ulchi Shield exercises. Very important for UPSC. Ulchi Shield exercises. Why are these being done? These are being done between South Korea and America, US, to have a strong military readiness for North Korean attacks. Similarly, Fiji is also scared of China. So Fiji is trying to come closer to India and Quad, and India has promised to upgrade Fiji's military preparedness if tomorrow an attack happens from China. Now, India has also said that India will open a defense wing in the Indian High Commissioner office at Suva in Philippines. Similarly, with regards to the exclusive economic zone of Fiji, it's a very resource rich area. Fiji is a small island nation. Yes, very good. Ulchi Shield exercise. So, in this particular area near Fiji, the sea is very fertile. Rich reserves of oil, gas, and fisheries are there. So, with this better relationship, India will also have a much better access to this resource based area. Similarly, India is saying, I will provide Fiji training, support, equipment for better surveillance. Surveillance is better monitoring and guidance so that China is not able to come and successfully make a naval base too close to Fijian special exclusive economic zone. Now, please, for your UPSC exam, GS paper 3 economics and GS paper 2 international relations, be very clear with words like special economic zone, exclusive economic zone, okay, territorial waters, coastal limit. These are quite important. If you think there is any confusion, you can let me know. We will bring back a video for you. But be very clear with these concepts. Okay, so India has promised all these things to Fiji. They are saying across healthcare, India will provide super specialty medical hospital in Fiji. India will enable better arrival of Fijian students to India for higher education. India will also try to provide a cyber security training cell at Fiji. Much better HADR. Now, HADR is also very important for UPSC. It was in the news last year throughout 2024. What is HADR? Very important. Humanitarian assistance and disaster relief exercises. So, India and Fiji today have agreed to do the HADR exercises, which means both the countries will have a better coordination and cooperation on climate related disasters, tsunami, earthquakes, how to act in the case of such a disaster, how to provide immediate disaster management, humanitarian relief, evacuation, life support system. Okay? precautionary measures, all that both the countries will work. India is gifting ambulances to Fiji for use in military. Please remember, Fiji has a huge Indian population. Many Indian descendants, people from Indian origins, are still working in Fiji because they were transported by the British government during the British times to work in the Fiji island as plantation laborers. Since generation they have got settled there. So today both the countries have huge, beautiful bilateral ties. We are done for today's lecture. The last question before I leave, with reference to India-Fiji cooperation, look at the following statements. 1. India and Fiji signed an MOU on defense cooperation in 2017 through areas like military, medicine, and US peacekeeping. 2. Fiji has been identified in India as a hub for its engagement with Pacific Island nations under the Indian Indo-Pacific Oceans Initiative. The last is India recently announced the establishment of a defense wing in the High Commissioner office at Fiji called SUVA. Which of the following statements is or are correct? You can let us know. Answers are there available for you. Okay, so thank you so much for being a part of this session as always. And I shall come back with another interesting Hindu news coverage tomorrow. Yes, I will definitely get you essay discussion. If you demand so, I shall bring it back to you. So all the best. If you like the video, do like, share and subscribe the channel. That's Study IQ English, and see you tomorrow. Okay, wonderful.